Tuning in to the Val and Val Show, where conversation is art. Conversation is art. Conversation is art. You should chime in. Ain't no telling what to spark on the Val and Val Show. Ain't no telling the Val and Val Show. You know, ain't no telling where we go on the Val and Val Show. Ain't no ceiling, cause the art of conversation is the flow. It's that creativity available when we speak, available in our homes, available in the streets. We just trying to get it sparking and take it a little deeper. Keep it casual while fireside chatting with our people. Yeah, we take it a little deeper. It get hot when we fireside chatting with our people. Cause conversation is art. Conversation is art. You should chime in. Ain't no telling what'll spark on the Val and Val. The Val and Val Show. The Val and Val Show.
Hello.
Hey. What's happening, Val?
Ain't nothing much
What's going on?
happening. Well, this is interesting,
you
you all, because I'm out here. I'm a Bama, Texas lady for the next 4 days.
Okay. a Texas Bam.
That's correct. Out here supporting my daughter. Look,
Bam,
I gotta support my retirement income.
Yeah, you out there stealing water out here. But it's all good.
Hey, ain't this what you live for as a parent? What's up, y'all?
That's
Come
right.
on in
absolutely
here.
Hey, everybody. We're so glad you're able to join us or able to join us tonight. We have a great show for you. As always, we try to give quality entertainment, but quality information as well. And I think we have some information that will be coming forth. And for the rest of we got some pretty live stuff coming up. So hopefully we will be able to go on that some of these concerts that's coming to town and do some live interactions with them as well. So it's been a hot day to get today, folks. Hope you all have hydrated
Most
yourselves
definitely.
and you keep me in a healthy.
Hey, you know it's hot in Texas.
On that intake. You're down there about 110, aren't you? Heat index?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's
pretty
real
hot
hot
down
out
here. It's pretty hot.
So you know, the thing is, I saw somebody post and I reposted it. They said, "Okay, Lord, I get it. I don't want to go to hell. Can you turn the thermostat to 62 like it is in heaven?" And then he signed off on it.
Tell me who posted that?
Was.
Who posted that?
Initially, it was a guy named Richard that posted it, and then I lifted it from his and I changed some of the language on it.
I got you.
So Val Ricardo, did you see it? Val Ricardo Jesus Jr. Johnson. So it was a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah. Hey, Renee, don't Ella.
It like we got a delay. I think.
Huh? I think you got a little bad connection. I think you got a little. I think you got a little bad connection going on with you, Valton, tonight for whatever. We're gonna have to work on that.
Got a lag.
Yeah. Hey, Rita. Hey, LaSherie.
Yeah, I got a lag.
Yeah. Well, look, welcome everyone. Conversation is art. The Val and Val Show. Hey, my plan was to get us started. Valton is in training, you all, and bringing us live. So y'all give him a hand clap. He brought us on tonight.
She said I'm in
and,
training.
I was supposed to be. He's in training. He don't know everything. He got y'all thinking he be doing stuff. He in training for real now. But no, really and truly, we're trying to learn how to do everything. But we're trying to, make sure we both know how to do everything. Yeah, just in case. But anyway, so look, you all, I know
Right.
you all been waiting on
Right.
this. This is probably, this has become one of our most popular segments, having the renowned Dr. Coleman on with his mental health series. And tonight we're going to be talking about anxiety, you all, and it's real.
amazing.
And I just want to read to you all
Yeah.
about anxiety. You know, and I looked this up on the internet, and this is according to WebMD, but of course, you know, the good psychiatrist is going to have much more. It said anxiety disorders are a group of mental illnesses that cause constant overload, anxiety, and fear. And you all, it says the excessive anxiety can make you avoid work, school, family, get-togethers, and other social situations because it triggers you or worsens the symptoms. So Dr. Coleman is here tonight to help us learn how to be calm in the choppy waters of anxiety. So come on in, Dr. Coleman.
Good evening, Val and Val.
Welcome. And look, you all, look, I hope y'all got y'all notebooks because you know
happening?
he loaded. He loaded. He got a cannon, y'all. He sent me some information. I got to figure out how to upload it. It's great.
Well, to piggyback kind on what you was talking about earlier about feeling overwhelmed and fear, you know, what people don't realize is anxiety is a natural human response. You know, anxiety is tied to what's called our limbic system. That is the oldest system in the brain, and every animal in the animal kingdom has a limbic system. And it's the system that really is designed to help us regulate our emotions and to allow us to survive. If we did not have anxiety, basically none of us will be alive. Our ancestors used anxiety to get away from things. Now, the problem is, as you can pretty much tell, is that system is outdated. It's kind of like saying this is an iPod from 1998, and here we are in 2022. And that's the problem that we have. Our brain hasn't really figured out that the things that we deem as overwhelming and dangerous, that is not a real tiger or a lion or a bear. But it perceives all of these things in the same way. And so, as what most people do, we try to avoid it. We try to stay busy. We try to ignore it. And the more you ignore things that are stressful, the more the anxiety continues to just build up, build up, build up. And basically, your body says, okay, if you're not going to pay attention to us, the only thing we can do is shut you down because you're not going to kill us. And anxiety is about, I think it's 20% of the US population suffers from anxiety. And we've been kind of talking about depression before being the number one illness and stuff as far as disability and stuff. Well, if you look at stats and look at the NIMH, which is kind of the gold standard for research in our country and stuff, when people have depression, about nearly 50% of them also have anxiety. People with anxiety, 60% also have depression. And if we think about it from a biological perspective, what happens in your brain when you're depressed, the frontal lobe, your hippocampus, all those areas shrink, and the area called the amygdala becomes enlarged. And the limbic system involves the hippocampus, the amygdala. I'm not going to get too far in the weeds, but I'll try to stay on the surface. But these areas in the brain are interconnected. And when one becomes sorry, Valton. But when one acts up, it affects the other, and then they feed on each other. And let's just think about it this way: look at what's going on in our society right now. We have, you know, from a concept, if you just think historically, way back in the day, if two tribes came together and they, back in the ancient of days, there would have been war because they didn't trust each other. What do we have going on in our country right now? We got tribes. We got the left, we got the right. And when you think of it from a historical perspective, it makes sense that the issue of the anger and the rage, because we feel like they are attacking our people. And somehow we've gotten caught up in the limbic system and forgot that we really do have a prefrontal cortex that allows us to use reason and rationality. So the problem is you got tribal issues, You got, I think I read today that the interest rates were getting ready to be hiked. You're already talking about gas prices out the wazoo. So now you're going to add those kind of financial stressors. And how does that relate to the brain? Well, when you think about your job and finances, for your brain is concerned, that is the equivalent of food, shelter, and your basic necessities. So if your finances and your job is in danger, then your livelihood and your life is in danger. No wonder why you stress out.
But Dr. Coleman, let's talk about anxiety with this, because paying for gas is increased anxiety. And I see a lot of people, posted it was kind of, you got to laugh in some of this stuff. I was listening to a pastor preach, and he was saying that, he said, how you standing at the gas pump and it tick up and you love the Lord, but you almost cuss. And it's like, you take my daughter, she has a Camry. She said when it hit 50, she was like, oh my God, I thought I had an economical car. But
well, and we laugh about it, but unfortunately, the limbic system can't figure out that. All it sees is it's a danger to my existence. That's what it sees, because basically if gas prices get too high, you're going to have to start making some decisions if you're on the bottom end of the rung. And we live in the wealthiest country in the world, yet as far as if you look at the World Health Organization, as far as happiest countries, we way down at number 19. And so when we start thinking about anxiety and why is it such a problem for us, well, here's some things that people don't realize. Our culture is becoming more and more narcissistic. That means everything's about me, 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 me. And when things are only about you, one of the hallmarks of being a narcissist is a lack of empathy. So you don't care about other people. So we wonder why all this hard things going on in our society. The book is called The Narcissistic Epidemic. It was written by, I think, Gene Twenge. I know that's not on the stuff I sent you. I'm going all off script on you, Val.
Well,
but it's Gene
another
Twenge.
thing about it, though, you're explaining it.
Yes.
Why we're here.
But it's Twenge and Keith Campbell. It's the narcissistic epidemic. And what they did is they looked at an epidemic. Yeah. So back in the 1950s, the issue of being self-absorbed was at about 12% when they did studies. By the time it got to 1989 for boys, it was at 77%. For girls, it was at 80%. And it says it's been climbing. So we got people that are becoming more and more materialistic, so much so that's where the whole issue of FOMO, fear of missing out. Now, we created a new condition in mental health, fear of missing out, because people are so stressed out and anxious, because even though they may have a camera that's fully functional sitting in the yard, if their neighbor gets a Mercedes, now they're depressed and anxious because they're not stacking up, so to say. And that's the culture we live in. So you put that peg there, then you add another peg. And what's the other peg? Well, let's think about what's happening in our culture now as well. What's happened to the family? It's dissolved. The family is dissolved. And not only, and what's the problem with that? When you think about, and I talked about this earlier with that adverse childhood study that we talked about, 70% of people who have anxiety, depression came from homes with trauma. Well, where's most of that trauma coming from? Homes that have been broken. And that's an epidemic in our culture. And it's not just in our society before it's the blacks, because like I said, 73% with us. But if you look in the white society as far as in America, there's books like Life at the Bottom that talks about the epidemic over in England, which doesn't have the same issues. But if you read that book, you'll see that the whites over in England, the poor, having the same stressful issues that we're having. And if you look in America, there's two books, Evicted and Hillbilly Elegy, that talk about the same issues of single parenthood and the devastation that's leading in those homes. So then you add the third component. This country is becoming less and less spiritual. And so we have replaced God with stuff. And so now you have a culture that is propped up stuff for God. And that stuff is what we look to equate to our sense of being. And if your being is tied to stuff, then no wonder why we're having increased issues of depression and anxiety. And social media feeds it. It's like gas on a fire, because it just shows you just how you don't stack up, because that's all people do. They go on vacation to show pictures to show how they're living at large. And most folks aren't even enjoying the vacation because they're too worried about the pics being posted just right. So when we talk
well,
about,
Dr. Coleman, let me ask you
yeah,
this because I want to interject this. You made me think about something. Because when I grew up, and I'm gonna use classism because that's what it is. You've
hmm
always had people. You had the wealthy, the
hmm
middle, and then those that were poor.
hmm
However, growing up, my parents were on the lower end. Look, we was on the poor end. Okay, we weren't
hmm
the lowest end of poor.
hmm
However, I didn't know that till I came to Birmingham and got other folks and discovered we were poor because it was fine. We didn't have a top of the line car, but we had, but my parents had decent vehicles.
hmm
I had the clothing and stuff I needed, and I was fine. And it seems like then, but I think it was because what you said, we had family, we had so
hmm
much more, we had our values. Now with our culture, TV
hmm
and now social media added on. It was TV long, but
right.
now social media is having that we all should be on a level playing field where society has never been on a level playing field. However, we did not make people feel bad if they were not rich like it is now. So now we have everybody wants
hmm
I don't even know tennis shoes, y'all. Do they still make Air Jordans for
They still
real?
do. They still
Okay,
do.
whatever. So
Jordan,
it used to be if you knew you couldn't get Air Jordans and
there's,
your mama
there's,
said or your dad said you can't have them, it's fine. But now if you can't get it, it's devastating because you're made to feel less than.
Well, if you think of,
So
but that goes deeper than that, though. I know it sounds petty, but it's not really if you think about it from a biological perspective. Because one of the
mhm,
key things back in the day that if you was ostracized from your clan, that was a death sentence. So your brain has been sending those survival genes down the line to know that if I'm not part of the group, then that is danger for my existence. So what we
mm,
look at is on the surface as this is just petty or they should just get over it. No, from a deep in that limbic system, that the part of your brain, the deep part of your brain, it doesn't register it that way. What it sees is they're in that group and I'm not in a group. Oh my God, I'm not in a group. Survival gene kicks in. If I'm not in a group, that means I'm at risk for death. And so now all of a sudden, that whole deep psychological issue of fear of your existence kicks in. So now you're flipping that limbic system, and all of a sudden you got your amygdala on full throttle, and you're caught up in an anxiety attack. And so people are
goodness.
not realizing just how deep these things go. That's why a lot of people, if you look at the people who actually create these sites on Google and stuff, a lot of them are limiting their kids' use of the social media because they know how much damage it does. We've talked about the social dilemma before. These things are created to create avatars of you. The more you, it's so like I was sitting around, you can sit around and talk to somebody. And if your notifications aren't all for stuff like that, even if probably if they're on, you can have a conversation. Next thing you know, on Facebook or something, an
right,
ad for what you've been
right.
talking about has popped
That's
up.
creepy. That is really
Yeah,
creepy to me.
but the thing is, they are feeding into you and they are quickly adapting to who you are as a person, and you're becoming hooked and you get dopamine rushes. That's why
Mm-hmm.
the advent of the like button and how many followers you got, those things matter to these people. This is their sense of belonging, and it is very deep and it's dangerous,
Their
and
existence.
people don't realize just how dangerous of a game we're playing. When we have neuroscientists sitting around trying to figure out just how they can get us addicted to something. you know and that's the scary part.
Well, look, I
Mm-hmm.
want to read
Mm-hmm.
something from what you sent today. It says anxiety disorders are the most common mental health concern in the United States. Over 40 million adults in the US, 19.1% have an anxiety disorder, and that's
Hmm.
probably diagnosed, right?
Right.
That's diagnosed, you all.
Right.
So if you add in those that have it and have been diagnosed, it's higher than that.
What?
But this is very disturbing. This
Hmm.
next one for real. Meanwhile, approximately 7% of children age three,
Hmm.
three,
Hmm.
3 to 17
Hmm.
experience issues with anxiety each year. And most people develop symptoms before age 21. Now, three, talk about 3 because my brain can't even grasp that. Because I'm thinking at 3, did I know I was in the world at 3? I mean, that's really what I'm sitting here thinking. Really,
Well, you
it's a
came out of
different world, though.
it is. You know how many kids you see on tablets? Look at how many
Yeah,
young
true.
kids you see on tablets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're being inundated with these things. And then goes back to what we said earlier. You go back to 1950 in the black community, about 80+% of kids came up in two-parent homes. Now you got about 37%.
Mhm.
And
Gotcha.
unfortunately, many times, you know who the babysitters of these kids are? Those electronic devices and TV.
Yeah.
And
Like for me,
unfortunately,
it was my
even in the
grandmama
Like
and
you
my
two-parent,
already word
granddad.
about
yeah, but grandmama and granddad had
the
paid
TV
attention
grew up.
to you and helped you to
Yeah.
regulate stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
It's different.
Wow. Y'all that 3 years old to 17. That was like, wow. Y'all look, if y'all got all these stats like me and Balton did, you'll be clutching your chest. We have to process the stuff that Dr. Coleman sent us because it's heavy
Yeah.
and weighty, you all. It really is.
Well, here's something that, when we talk about the kids, because I know that's probably sending fire alarms off for some of these parents that's on there. But if you think about it, there's a really good book. It's called Hold On to Your Kids that I should have put that in there too, but I didn't. But it's called Hold On to Your Kids. And the other one it's called IGN. I, like the lowercase I and then GN. And it talks about exactly what we're talking about how anxiety and depression are going through the roof with young people because of social media and these kids feel like they have to be connected. And so what parents have to do is parents are going to have to find things for their kids to get involved in so that they can have meaningful connection. I know people are worried about COVID, but if you actually look at the studies with kids and stuff, the dangers of COVID for kids is far less than the dangers if you actually pull up the stuff of what's happened to these kids by being isolated.
Got
So
you. Look,
if
you
you
got a
worry,
question, Doc, in the chat.
yeah,
Let me read this. So it
okay.
says, so Doc, how do we deal with the challenges of managing teens who feel like they need to be connected, especially with the disconnects during the pandemic? You just mentioned that. And
hmm
balancing connection time with older teens. And as you talked about the smaller kids with the
hmm
tablet, and then she put asking for a friend, laugh out loud.
Well, that's like I said. That's where if you're a single mom, that's where like honestly, you need to get them into these mentor programs. These YMs, the boys clubs and stuff like that. That are what's it called, the Boy Scouts or whatever
Girls
thing
teens,
that girls.
stuff
Yeah, you
like that.
need to get them involved and stuff. Some churches have teen ministries and stuff. Whatever it is, you got to get them involved. You yourself go join churches and find some little communities that do social outreach and stuff. See, the problem is we've got to make time to be active in our kids' lives because if we don't, this internet and everything else associated with it will
Right.
take over.
We'll get them.
The streets are definitely gonna get them, and it's hard. I'm not telling you it's something easy, but what you'll find if you read that book, Hold On to Your Kids and IGN, and what you'll see is the more time you spend with your kids, they'll enjoy spending time with us. Like our daughter, just last night, she wanted to play was it gin rummy? We play cards in our house. One of the things my wife did when early on in our life, we had game night, and so she implemented
Yeah.
game night in our home. So we played all kind of games, whether it was Scrabble or Monopoly or whatever it was, and one of the things we learned, I think she got from the Obamas, or I don't know where she got it from, but we limited the amount of internet and TV they could get on during the week too. And we watched this movie called The Social Dilemma together, and we talked about it. We had a honest conversation because one of my kids was having issues because, to be honest, it was because she was on the internet too much and she was having issues of anxiety and irritability. And we sat down and we watched it as a family, and we had an honest discussion about it. And when she cut back on it and she started getting sleep, she told me herself, "I'd hate to admit this, but you were right."
But you
You
know what,
know,
Dr. Coleman, that's a good point. I know what my kids, what I did, um, they had computer time. I mean, and for up until for a long time, the computer was in a public space. They could not
mhm,
have their tablets and things in their room because number one, I need to monitor it. So as you said, Y'all, parenting
Mhm.
means you cannot be your child's friend. You have to
That's
set
right.
the limits, and they follow those because my son's computer science, and he jokes. He say, all that played off." But I said it did pay off, but I also limited it.
That's right.
When he came in, it was like, okay, you got this much time
That's right.
to play your games, and he knew if I woke up in the middle of the night and heard him on the game when he was much younger. Oh, I was one of them, extreme moms. I go down there and unplug everything and take it, put it in my car and take it to work with me. You don't have access to it. So they learned that, okay, these are the rules. And when with parents, you got to enforce rules because, you go out to eat. Everybody's on their cell phone. And I'm like, we could stay at home for this.
Well,
We,
speaking of that,
we
one of the things we implemented, that was my wife too, is no cell phones at the dinner table. When we go out to restaurants, and here's a funny story. Like my daughter, who's at Penn State now, she played on a travel ball team, Tennessee Mojo, and we went out with the parents and the kids after a tournament, right? And so they're at the table, and all of a sudden, one of the girls at the table, and this is, I think Lydia was like 12, 13 at the time, maybe a little older actually, 14 or 14. But one of the girls at the table comes over to the table and is upset that Lydia has gone around and taken everybody's phone.